All right, welcome to Talkin' Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to talk about the Bitcoin miners. All the Bitcoin miners put out their operational report for the month of July. So I want to go through July. We take a look at this 5 different ways. Okay, so before I get started, do not adjust your screens. Yes, I smashed my head today. I have no good explanation other than that's what happened. So if you see a big red mark on my forehead, that is because I smashed my head into an iron bar. I'm just fine. I just didn't want people to be wondering, so let's move on. So I bring you these charts each month. We talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel, so if you are new here and you enjoy that content, or if you have been here before and you have not yet subscribed, please do the channel a great big favor and subscribe. You can also smash the like button and hit the notification bell. So let's get into it. Let's slice this up and take a look and see what's going on. Okay, the first chart, Bitcoin production for the month of July. So Marathon mined 1,176 Bitcoin. That is the second largest month for Bitcoin production that they've ever had. It is the largest month as far as the number of blocks that they solved. Marathon was in first place last month. They're in first place again this month. CleanSpark is in second place at 575. CleanSpark was in second place last month, and they have maintained that position. So Iris Energy jumped up the list. They were number 4 last month. They jumped up to number 3 this month, 423 Bitcoin mined. You're going to see there's a really tight range in the next bunch of Bitcoin miners. So Cypher jumped up to 4th place from 6th place. So they were another big mover. They mined 418 Bitcoin in the month. That was just a few less than Iris Energy. So you're going to see, I do think those two, as well as a few others, are going to be competing here on a monthly basis for this 3rd place spot. Next, we have Riot. Riot mined 410 Bitcoin. So I will mention, I think they had $6 or $8 million of revenue last quarter in selling energy back to the grid. So while they're selling it back to the grid, they're not mining Bitcoin. So you can see this is having a big effect on them. You're going to see this come out in the efficiency rating later. Their efficiency is atrocious, but it really is for this reason. They've made a conscious decision that it's more profitable in the short term to sell a lot of this energy back to the grid. Also, most of what they do is in Texas, and Texas had a heat wave and they desperately needed the energy. So for that reason, Riot moved from 3rd place down to 5th place. I do expect over the course of time in later months this year, I expect Riot and CleanSpark to be duking it out for 2nd place. Right now, Riot is in 5th. Okay, Bitfarms is in 6th place. So they were in 5th last month. They dropped to 6th this month, but they've been very, very consistent. 378 Bitcoin mined. They do have a plan to continue to grow. So I think they're going to compete with all these companies that they're surrounding. So we may see them fluctuate in 4th, 5th, 6th place. We'll see what happens over the course of the rest of the year. But Bitfarms, in my mind, remains very competitive. TeraWulf is on the rise right now. They're at 330 Bitcoin. I do think they're going to get more competitive. So there's a pretty big drop off from 7th place to 8th place. So really, that top 7, I think, is going to remain solid for the rest of the year. It's going to be hard for anybody to break into this top 7. The one exception that I would make to that is if Hut 8, which is not in the top 10 at all right now, if they manage to get this merger put through before the end of the year, it is entirely possible they will jump back into this top 7. I don't think anybody else can break in, but there's a lot of year left, and last year we did have some surprises before the year was over. So I'm not making any permanent calls here. Obviously, none of this is financial advice. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. 7, 8, 9, and 10 remained the same month over month, which was Wolf, Hive, BitDeer, and Stronghold. I do expect TeraWulf sometime in the next 90 days to make a move and see if they can move up this list. We'll have to wait and see what happens because obviously everybody continues to compete. So this is an extremely competitive area. Let's take a look at year to date. Okay, so now this is Bitcoin mined year to date. So if we look, we're going to see still Marathon is in 1st place by a pretty substantial margin, 6,297. This list excludes Core Scientific. So if and when they get out of Chapter 11, I will add them back to this list once we can buy them on the NASDAQ. But for the time being, right now, Marathon stands as number 1 by far. So you're going to see still at number 2 is Riot. So remember, in the month of July, they slipped all the way down to 5th place. But for the year to date, they're still hanging on to that number 2 position at 4,295. Riot and CleanSpark are going to battle for that 2nd place spot all year long. And a lot of it's going to have to do with how much energy Riot decides to kick back to the grid. Also, they both have extremely aggressive growth plans. CleanSpark's growth plan is going to kick in a little sooner than Riot's. So if I had to guess right now, I think CleanSpark's probably going to end up mining the 2nd most Bitcoin out of all the Bitcoin miners by the end of the year. But again, not financial advice. These are just my best guesses but if last year taught us anything, we don't know what's going to happen until the year is over. Okay, so from third place, Bitfarms is in fourth place. So you're going to see there's a big drop off, over 1,000 Bitcoin drop off from third place to fourth place. So this is where you're going to have a lot of competition. Bitfarms is at fourth place at 2,898. Cypher is right behind it at 2,831. So only a few Bitcoin separate those two year to date. Cypher is on the move, so there's a very good chance that Cypher could pass Bitfarms. We'll see how the rest of the year goes. So Iris Energy has been on the move as well. If you remember, in the month of July, which is this month, in the month to date, Iris Energy moved all the way up to third place. So although they are in sixth place right now, which is the same spot they were in last month, I do expect them to compete with Bitfarms and Cypher on a year-to-date basis. So I think the three of those companies are going to battle it out by the end of the year to see who ends up ahead. Hive Blockchain year-to-date's at 1,892. They remain in seventh place. TeraWolf is at 1,772. So they are catching Hive Blockchain. I do expect over the next 2 months, they will pass Hive Blockchain, and it's highly likely they will finish ahead of Hive by the end of the year. Then in 9th and 10th, new to the list, BitDeer is new to the list because really we're just only now getting enough information for me to include them and their year-to-date numbers on this list. So they're at 1,530. They're in 9th place. I think that's probably where they're locked in, but we'll see what happens. They are a big company, so we'll see if they can grow and try and pass some of these other companies. And then Stronghold's in 10th place at 1,449. So they're probably locked into 10th place. It's possible they will fall out of the top 10. Again, if HUT does do this merger, they may have a substantial increase in the amount of mining in the second half of the year. So we'll see what happens. For now, this is the top 10 year to date. This is Exahash through July 31st. So you're going to see I have included Core Scientific. They reported in July. They're at 15.2 Exahash. But again, I'm not counting them in the top 10. I'm just showing them for illustrative purposes because at the moment, they are in Chapter 11. So Marathon, with or without Core Scientific, Marathon at this point is in first place at 18.8 Exahash. By August or September, we should see them at 23 Exahash. So you can see it's a gigantic drop from there down to Riot at 10.7 Exahash. Then we go to Cleanspark at 9 Exahash. Cleanspark does have a plan in place that they are fully funded to 16 Exahash, and they expect to get there by the end of the year. So it will be interesting to see where Cleanspark goes. Then we have Cypher at 6.8 Exahash in fourth. Iris Energy is right where they were last month in fifth place at 5.6 Exahash. TeraWolf is just a tiny bit behind at 5.5 Exahash. Then we go to Bitfarms at 5.3 Exahash, and then there's a bit of a drop-off. BitDeer's at 3.8 self-mining Exahash. Then we go to Hive at 3.64. And Stronghold rounds it out at 3.4 Exahash. Stronghold's year-end target is 4 Exahash. So again, they're probably likely to stay in 10th place. And if HUT 8 jumps into the game and HUT 8 has their merger, then that will probably knock Stronghold off the list. Okay, let's move to mining efficiency. This is a chart that I pay close attention to. Some of these companies are now giving us an exact number of their active Exahash throughout the month. For the rest of them, I'm just using an average based on what they're reporting. So you're going to see there is a four-way tie for first place this month, and these are the 4 companies that have been number 1 through 4 every single month this year. I will say TeraWolf has been consistently in 5th place. They are one step behind, but still very efficient. Then we go to Core Scientific. I did include them on this list because I do expect by the end of the year they'll be out of Chapter 11. So I do want to show that they have a lot of Exahash and they have a reasonable level of efficiency here at 68. Marathon remains in 7th place at 64 Bitcoin mined per Exahash. So we would like to see that number come up, and it has increased throughout the course of the year. Cypher and Stronghold are tied for 8th place at 62. BitDeer is then in 10th place at 58. So by the time you get down to 58, these start to be numbers that are really lower than they need to be. These companies need to work on improving their efficiency. Riot Platforms, as we talked about earlier, they're selling a lot of their energy back to the grid. So this number is very, very low. I will tell you, even if you add their energy back in, they're still not as efficient as these top 4 miners I've been talking about. So I do think Riot needs to make progress on their overall mining efficiency. So I'm going to keep a close eye on this. Of everything we look at, to me, I think this is probably the most important monthly report. Okay, with that, let's just finish it out looking at everybody's HODL position. So there are really 3 Bitcoin miners that have a substantial amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Marathon is in first place. They've been in first place for quite some time. I do not think any Bitcoin miner can pass them in HODL position anytime in the next 1 or 2 years. I'm not sure what it would take for one of these companies to catch them or pass them. I think it's highly unlikely. So they seem pretty locked in at first place as far as number of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. But again, I will say we've seen some surprising things happen. At one point, Core Scientific was first or second in overall amount hodled. Subsequent to that, they had to sell all their Bitcoin. So things can happen, but for the time being, Marathon does have a huge stack on their balance sheet, and they have a very strong balance sheet. At number 2 is HUT. So HUT's not on a lot of these top 10 lists, but one of the things that keeps them with a large market cap and a very interesting potential investment, in my opinion, is this massive HODL stack they have of Bitcoin. So they have over 9,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. This is a company that has little to no debt. So again, a very, very strong balance sheet. In third place is Riot. So Riot has over 7,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They also have a very strong balance sheet. Probably, objectively speaking, they have the strongest balance sheet out of all the Bitcoin mining companies. They have no debt. They also have over 7,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet and quite a bit of cash. So they're in a very good shape financially. Those 3 companies have clearly separated themselves from a HODL position. So next in line is Hive. So they have over 2,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So, that is a nice balance. They're not going to catch the top 3, but they continue to maintain somewhere around 2,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I think it's important they keep these 2,000 Bitcoin because after the halving, it's going to get harder and harder to add to your HODL balance. In 5th place is Bit Digital. Now, it is worth noting this is Bitcoin equivalent. A lot of this is actually Ethereum. They stake Ethereum. Bit Digital is an Ethereum play as well as a Bitcoin play. In 6th place is Cleanspark. Cleanspark doubled their HODL this month. They went from about 500 to over 1,000. And see, there's really only 9 companies that are HODLing Bitcoin at all. Once you get to number 10, you get to Stronghold at 50. So that's where this list stands. We'll take a close look at this, obviously, again next month. So that's what happened in the month of July for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you enjoy this content, please remember to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and hit the notification bell. So thanks so much, and we will see you in the next video.